Mm. Hello, everyone. I'm just gonna make a live video today. I haven't made one in a while. I just feel like talking to whoever feel like talking, chatting, or giving a statement, a comment. But the theme is schools in, and it's a lot of changes in the school. I've heard that some schools are closing. And there's one thing that don't change is the assault on the school system. And I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen the changes from what we went, how school was when we went to school and our kids went to school. And now that our great grandkids are going to school, we have had a long history of dealing with the school system. And we have seen the changes. Okay. We have a different type of teachers now. And it is a lot of good schools out there. But why they're not all good? It's still the same old thing. Depends on where you live, who your parents are, how much money you got. All that is taken into consideration of what kind of education you're going to get. But I am a firm believer it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter because our kids still can be successful no matter what school they go to. Now, I know it's hard because you're dealing with kids that are coming from broken homes, dysfunctional homes, horrible neighborhoods, and they come with that attitude. Okay? Now, on one instance, you could be raising your kids to be good, follow the rules, but then you have this child over here that's in the classroom that's disruptive. It might harm your child. And see, that's what we're dealing with. I think they need more disciplinary schools so they could take these kids and help them. And the ones that are trying to learn, trying to do the right thing, can learn in peace. Because some of these kids that's in disciplinary schools, they need extra care. They need more than education. They need some TLC. They need some discipline. And you have to treat the whole family, not just the kids. And if we can't do it for all the kids, at least we could do it for the ones that are vulnerable to come out here and harm not just themselves, but other kids. And we have to take into consideration too that kids like that, they need more discipline. They need more structure. And we should treat all kids with that in mind. But some disciplinary kids need extra. Okay. and they need to be under a holistic curriculum. They need a primary educator as well as a primary lawgiver and primary healer. Yes, they need to be more out in the world. They need more field trips. And having a primary lawgiver, they need to know and see what will happen if they continue to go down that path. Now, I'm not sure how good that Scared Straight program did, but they need something like that. Because I don't think no child in their right mind at 17 would want to go to jail for the rest of their life. Because you're not going to be 17 forever. And sooner or later, you're going to wake up 20 years old and you're going to wonder, why did I do that? But it's too late. Because once they lock you up, you locked up. And you ain't getting out till they let you out. And these kids have to understand that. And I know the parents, some of them do care, but they have no backup. They don't have anybody with them to help them with their kids. And see, an education at the human level would be the conscious sensitizing of humans to the profound communications made by the universe about us, by the sun, the moon, the stars, the cloud, the rain, the contours of the earth, and all its living forms. Yeah, a lot of these kids, they don't, especially some areas where, like, say, New York, you are raising a child in a city that has over 4 million people. So they are totally surrounded by people, concrete, tall buildings, cars everywhere. I just can't imagine what that does to the psyche, a child's psyche, especially a young child that is poor, can't really get out the city, probably have never seen a pig, probably have never seen a rose. That has to do something with your psyche. And then you have these kids that are living in these housing. They're living on the 10th floor. Every day they are surrounded by thousands of people, all kind of people. And then they have parents that are suffering because they there and they have to work, and so who really cares? Who really cares about our kids? And the music that they're listening to, are they being introduced to classical music or jazz, smooth jazz, or even the oldies but goodies? Are they listening to poetry, some African music, the drums? Are they being in the presence of goddesses? Because Black women are goddesses. And a lot of times, when our kids are not around that Black goddess, they have a tendency to be very rebellious. And are they being around strong Black leaders, educators, business owners? Do they see other people that look like them in positions of power, trueness? Are we talking to our kids with truth and honesty? Are we showing them how to be honest and true? And also, do we let them be close to nature, show them how nature is, and show them how wonderful nature is? How many kids out there that volunteer to help handicapped children or help elderly? I have the sense that some of these young people are not around elders too much. Because, for one thing, it's hard to say that when your grandparent is in their 30s. The great great grandparents in their 60s. And then a lot of these kids do not have a relationship with their grandparents because they may not know who they are, or they don't get along with the parent. And when these kids don't have a connection with their roots, that destroys something too. See, we have to stop being and acting like lost people. And these kids need to be taught the system, how to work the system, how the system works, how to live in the system and thrive in the system. And we need to be kind, and we have to compliment our children every day. Hug them, give them a kiss, and be the disciplinary that discipline in love and truth and kindness. Now, we're going to talk about the yin yang. We don't talk enough about that. The yin yang need each other for there to be health in the cosmos, the earth, the cultures, the institutions, the schools, and classroom especially, and the individual. If one predominates to the exclusion of the other, sickness arises. So one could argue that Western culture and education has been dominated by yang, which tends to emphasize the rational, the material, the masculine, and the individual to the exclusive of the intuitive, the spiritual, the feminine, the group. The imbalance, one could argue, has led to sickness in the culture and the institutions. Let's look at the classroom in terms of yin and yang. Yang is individual, content, knowledge, rational, quantitative assessment, evaluation, technology, techniques, and strategies. Now, the yin is group, process, imagination, intuitive, qualitative assessment, instruction, learning, program, vision. Now, A lot of the teachers do not have that concept because that's one thing about the Board of Education. It controls what the teachers can say, do, what the curriculum is, because you could tell how, and then the government is controlling the Board of Education. So the Board of Education, it could say, hey, y'all not gonna get no federal money to help, fix that boiler room or help books or help give you quality lunches if you don't teach this or if you let these books be in your library. So the teachers have to do that. But I don't recommend they be private owned either, because we're gonna learn out of this book, Rich Thanks to Racism, is what private schools do. Now, we're going to talk about this private charter school. This is talking about who are running these schools and who are donating and putting up the funds to run these schools. They have this one school, Noble, which is let's see, in west side of Chicago. It has been fueled by the enormous private donations. Don't forget they have private prisons. How do you make money off of prisons when prisons are taking care of criminals, providing their food, housing? How are they making money? Why would somebody want to own a prison? Why would they want to own a school? Well, let's see. Noble's growth has been fueled by the enormous private donations it received, including more than $155 million it collected from 2006 to 2018. As mentioned earlier, Noble has received $1.8 million from the Gates Foundation. Are they telling us this? No. And a lot of parents don't even care either. And they know that. And they really depend on that. $2.1 million from Michael Dale. Almost $14 million from the Charter School Growth Fund and the New School Venture Fund, and almost $20 million in grants from the U.S. Department of Education since 2010. So even the government is investing in these charter schools. Noble has long been a darling of the school privatization community and has been heavily supported by both Republicans and Democrats. For example, the former mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, Democrat, has been a longtime fan, claiming that the Noble has found the secret sauce of school success and has the most successful high schools he's seen. Before he took office, former Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner, Republican, a billionaire, former private equity executive, donated $3.5 million to Noble. Why are they not doing that to the public schools? The family of the current governor, J.B. Pritzker, Democrat, Forbes' seventh richest family in America, $29 billion, has also made sizable donations to Noble. Two of the Noble schools are even named after Ronner and Pritzker. And in 2015, the Broad Foundation awarded Noble with the National Broad Prize for Public Charter Schools as the best performing large public school system in America. So, what did all the support from Noble's wealthy and politically powerful benefactors go toward building? What was the model of education that they were so excited to replicate that they subjected residents like Anna Jones to terminus school closures? Okay, they are closing these schools. Why? Why they have to close the schools? Why they just can't tear them down and build them up or just improve them? Well, because the most notable feature of Noble's model of education is how many of their students they choose not to educate. For example, according to data from the U.S. Department of Education, Noble's expulsion rate in 2015 to 2016 was over 7 times higher than the national average. That year, out across the city were all Noble schools. Even Noble's own teachers have described their methods and high rates of students pushed out as dehumanizing. Additionally, Noble received national condemnation in 2012 for its extreme approach to school discipline that involved imposing monetary fines on students for even the most minor disciplinary infractions. Noble collected $400,000 in student body, which was overwhelmingly composed of Black and Latino youth from low-income families. Even after it became a national news story, Noble refused to change its practices until state legislation outlawing disciplinary fines and was introduced. Wow. Didn't know that. Moreover, Noble is known for devoting much of its curriculum to standardized preparation. In fact, teacher pay has been linked to test performance at Noble, creating even more incentives to use drill and kill methods that may produce more superficially impressive data, but don't actually improve the quality of the teaching or learning. They have did more damage than we can ever know. Because I remember some years back that some teachers were caught manipulating kids' test scores so they would get more money. When your kids are doing good on scores, on tests, and you get more money. And I remember when my kids was going to school, testing days was like getting ready for a football game or something. You had to be there. You had to be prepared. And some kids don't go to school with other grades are having their tests. Now they have this school that's not worldwide, but all over the United States called KIPP. Now we're going to talk about Boston. In Boston, the KIPP school had the third highest out-of-school suspension rate in the city during 2014 and 2015. In Washington, D.C., where charter schools suspend students at higher rates than public schools. 5 of the 10 highest suspending charter schools in 2015 to 16 were KIPP schools. And KIPP schools in Oklahoma had the third highest suspensions rate of Black students of any charter school in the country. Beyond these high suspension rates, KIPP schools, like many no excuses charter schools, have cultivated ultra strict learning environments. They embrace the broken windows theory of cracking down on even what appear to be trivial rule violations. Many KIPP schools have also embraced methods such as requiring students to walk silently through the halls on one side of a painted line. They think this is good for our schools, for our kids. When I first saw those lines and watched a row of black children being marched down the hall of KIPP school with their heads down and their hands behind their backs, I actually had flashbacks to a time in my career where I spent a lot of time working with and representing inmates within maximum security prisons. The method used by the prisons for moving inmates from one place to another was identical. The parallels didn't end there. However, KIPP's extreme focus on social control of its students and its strict enforcement of its rules was startlingly similar to how those prisons was run. It was also hard to miss the stark contrast between the predominantly white teachers and the predominantly black students of many KIPP schools and how they compared to the racial makeup of prison guards and inmates. If we don't get it together, we have been pacified to the point that we are blinded from what's going on. Now, these leaders that we have out here, they claim they trying to do something about it, but how can they do something about something that they don't really know anything about? The racism of school privatization. Many readers are already probably recalling at the use of the R word, but consider this. One, the harms caused by school privatization have been overwhelmingly concentrated in communities of color. Two, while school privatization has been advertised as a racial justice effort, it actually's impact has been to suck up much of the oxygen within education reform conversation over the past 20 years and divert attention from the most pressing issues facing students of color. Three, if a school privatization suggests charter schools are inherently superior to public schools, then why have their most aggressive initial efforts have been directed entirely at communities of color? If there were truly something intrinsically special about the charter school model, then don't predominantly white affluent suburbs also deserve to benefit from it? If these schools are so effective, why didn't these billionaires fund privatization efforts in their own communities? And why aren't the residents of the predominantly white affluent communities in the offices of their school superintendents and elected representation clamoring for more charter schools? The answer, of course, is that communities with well-resourced public schools aren't interested in those superficial and harmful reforms. And everyone who has been paying attention knows that Black and brown communities were targeted for school privatization efforts because they have been so thoroughly disemboweled politically over the years that they wouldn't be able to provide as much resistance as other communities. School privatizers won't face as much public scrutiny for implementing their reforms in communities of color. And after enduring decades of neglect and undermining of the public schools with communities of colors, many people in those communities would be desperate enough to try anything. Thus, these youth of color have been used as proof point so the charter schools and the voucher programs would gain enough of toehold to subsequently expand more broadly. What school privatization efforts have demonstrated is that rather than requiring that education reform be based on sound research-based practices, our policies makers are very comfortable in conducting education experiments on students of color. If you analyze this situation and catch a faint whiff of modern-day Tuskegee syphilis study, you are on the right track. Okay, I'm gonna stop here at number 5. But yeah, I noticed that way back in the early 2000s that these charter schools was coming up, and I was hearing some very horror stories. And some charter schools were actually being closed up because they were so bad. Right dead in the Black community. But see, if you don't look for the answers, if you don't ask the hard questions, our kids are the ones that are going to suffer. Now, if you don't think that our kids can't suffer more than our grandparents did, you are wrong. So I'm gonna end now. I see nobody came on, so I don't know what's going on, and I don't even care because right now, it is what it is. And I am hopeful. I'm hoping for the future. Thank you for listening. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.